Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to how to take it apart. This is part 2 of the Model 10 and Model 64 by Smith & Wesson, and we're going to go in the exact reverse of how we started. Now, if you have taken this gun apart and don't know how to get it back together, or you are wondering how to take it apart, go see part 1 of this 2-part series for how to take it apart, and you'll see complete disassembly and get all the good looks at the guts, including how to function. Anyways, we're going to start by grabbing our cylinder release here. It's detent and spring, and we're going to insert it into the hole at the back. The proper angle is that the top of the frame should be oriented with this pin, and if you're looking at it the way I am, it's going to be pointing down towards you. If you're looking at the way you are, it's going to be pointing up towards the top of the frame. I'm going to kind of insert it, and it's going to want to drop in, but it can't because of that spring. So I'm going to very carefully take the flat end of a screwdriver bit, and you can use a punch or a flat blade of a pocket knife or anything like that. I'm going to compress it in, and it's going to do exactly what it just did to me and try and shoot out. So I recommend getting it started with your finger, getting it in there, and it just is going to keep wanting to pop out. And this is the most frustrating part of getting these kinds of pistols back together, is parts just wanting to explode all over your workbench and fly across the room so you can't find them. They're devious little things. So anyways, get that set again. I'm going to start compressing it. And I'm going to get it down, and now I'm going to take my very thin screwdriver bit and get in there. I'm sorry you can't see this very well. I'm just going to try and get behind it without prying and marring the frame. If that doesn't work, you're going to want to grab something like a razor blade. Now, I don't exactly have anything available to me, so I'm going to take this bit. I'm going to pull up again just slightly. And I'm going to get it there. And there it goes. And this is just where you need to be very patient. And it's just going to drop in, and you're just going to push it flush. Turn it over. You're going to grab your cylinder. Oop, there we go. Cylinder release. We're going to put it on top of that peg. And now we have a kind of a hollow screw. It's threaded on the inside instead of on the outside. We're going to drop that on top. I'm going to grab the proper size bit and start tightening it down. And hand tension is perfectly fine. Don't over tighten any of these screws, by the way. It is definitely a no-no. Now I'm going to turn it back over, and here comes the second greatly frustrating part of reassembling this pistol. So here's my trigger and hand assembly. I'm going to just lay them here. And what we have to do is, with this flat down towards the bottom of the frame, I am going to have to compress this, and the screw is going to go towards this peg. And I'm going to need to compress this down and click it in. So one way to do this is, if you don't want to compress this bolt, is to try and basically line everything up, or yes, try and compress the spring, not the bolt, with everything together. And as you can see, it's absolutely a nightmare. So pretty much the only way to do this without cussing and throwing fits too greatly is to push this down, get your hand in there, and now I'm going to take my bolt, I'm going to line it up properly, I'm going to insert it so it's going to have its hinge there, and you're going to see this is how it wants to go. So I'm going to pick it up, I'm going to put the spring inside of it, and now it's going to need to be compressed, so I am going to not take my screwdriver, I'm going to grab a punch, because the screwdriver will mar the frame. I get my punch here out of my handy dandy toolkit. My skinny little punch, which is going to fit inside here. and I'm going to basically just get on in there and start compressing the spring. And this is another thing where you're going to want something to block this. So I've got a t-shirt over here. I'm going to put that up next to my gun and my wrist in front of it, and it's going to try and block your view here, and I'm very sorry for this, but you're going to figure it out. Basically, you're just compressing this spring all the way in until it wants to drop down below. And sometimes you can just use the back of your punch I'm pressing down, and come on, you. And you want to cuss and scream and shout, but do not do that because you will wake up the neighbors or upset the mother or the wife or make the children cry. We don't want to make children cry. And it does not want to go in. And this is where you're going to get extremely frustrated, but stay calm, because as soon as you get this little piece in, the rest of the gun basically just falls into place. So, I'm going to just keep working, trying. And it's just not going to agree with me, and I want to scream and shout and yell bad, nasty words. And this is where sometimes you have to give in and take a screwdriver bit. If you cannot get your bolt compressed or your spring compressed, take a screwdriver bit like this, press it in and down, and voila. I was hoping to do that the proper way with a punch and being gentle on the gun, but sometimes you just gotta be swift and quick and try not to break things. Always good when you don't break things. Now, you've got this little tab which interacts with the spring itself. It hooks up into it. You want to push that up towards this cut, and you're going to want to bring it back. Remember what we talked about in the disassembly video. You're going to have to push your cylinder release backwards, and of course it wants to flop around on you, but you get that in there and it'll drop down. Push your, and maybe it doesn't want to. So you basically have to just keep playing with this. And what I have forgotten is that the sear engagement needs to hit in the right spot. Or it will not let the hammer come down in. So I'm going to pull the trigger here, and I'm going to pull this bolt back at the same time, so it's this kind of like a three-handed operation. Bring the trigger down, up, and it's clicked into place. And basically you want, let's see, my little poker here. Let's see, you're going to want this piece right here to interact in this way with the sear. And that's what you're going for. Now, here comes the more easy parts. Now I can take my spring, I hook it onto its proper place, I push it down and in. You'll notice that there's kind of a P or a D looking part to it. I'm going to hold it in the frame, and I'm going to get my spring tension screw, and I'm going to grab my proper sized bit, and that is not it. I'm going to screw it down in and make sure my spring is centered. Now I'm going to start putting tension on it with my screwdriver. As you notice, many of these operations are three-handed, but you can manage them without the special rigs and everything that Smith & Wesson utilizes at the factory, or at least did when these older guns were produced. Now, we've got our hammer block, and as you can see, this rides in this plate like this, up and down. So I have found one of the easiest things to do is to get it in position and put it on its bolt. You just match it up and now use this front of the frame. And there's a hinging point here at the top. I'm going to get this piece where it needs to be, which is sometimes frustrating too. I'm going to hinge in and down and wiggle it until it goes in. Do not force it if it doesn't want to go. And I'm just going to start giving it gentle taps. If it does not go, grab it and knock it back out like that. It will be super frustrating. Again, it's much easier to get these stupid things apart than it is to put them back together, but I'm going to push it all the way up and down we go with this frame. Now it wants to go on, and now I'm just going to give it a couple taps. Get it even with the frame. Now I'm going to take my rear flat screwdriver, and you can do this in any order you want. Rear flat screw, my appropriate size screwdriver bit head. I'm going to screw that one down. I'm going to take the middle one, put that one in, and I'm going to screw this one down. Now I can take my cylinder and my yoke and insert the access pin through it, go all the way forward, turn my gun over, and then push it all the way to the rear, and I'm going to close it into the gun. I'm going to take my cylinder, yoke, tension screw, and I'm going to tighten it on down. Once you have all these in, you should give them just a little bit of a snug tension. Trust me, they won't come out under firing, especially this rear one. And remember always to use the proper size. So the previous owner did not, or user did not have a proper sized screwdriver. This is obvious to me. And basically what you want to do is you just turn them until they just don't want to turn anymore. Don't go any tighter. Okay, now switch to my big bit. Of course, just put your grips on. These rubber grips, they don't have a solid backing, so get them all the way down again, give them some tension, and then call it quits, because that bolt's going to want to come through the other side if you tighten it too much. Now, check, make sure the cylinder twists, rotates freely, goes in, closes properly. And there you go. Completely disassembled and reassembled the Smith & Wesson Model 10 or Model 64. Same internal components, same way to take it down. Thanks for watching, guys, and as always, keep your powder dry, and God bless.